Hi, I'm Haley.
And I'm Samera, and we did our project on Japanese versus Pakistani culture. So, Pakistani food. Pakistani food is very rich and diverse in its flavor and how it is enjoyed and created. Pakistani food does have a lot of regional influences, meaning a lot of dishes are created based on different regions and what each region's resources are. For example, Lahori cuisine, which is also Punjabi cuisine, is known for its spicy and rich flavors. And one of the famous dishes from Lahori cuisine is a Lahori tadka, which is a full roasted chicken with um, a lot of spicy seasonings, mostly similar to tandoori chicken. Also, baya is also very common, which are trotters and are simmered in a spicy broth, kind of like a mix between a stew and a soup. Sindhi cuisine, which is influenced by Sindhi culture, is very popular and well known for their biryani, which has a lot of flavors, cardamom, chili powders with rice. And Balochi cuisine uses a lot of meat in their dishes, like goat, and also grains like rice, lentils, and beans. Pakistani cuisine does have a lot of unique and different flavors. This is mainly due to the amount of spices used in each dish. Many of the main spices include cumin, coriander, turmeric, garam masala, and red chili powder. One main component of Pakistani dishes is basmati rice. Many dishes are enjoyed with rice, whether it is rice mixed in with meat or separately. Um, um, Pakistanis do also tend to eat a lot of meat, um, mainly lamb, chicken, and beef. They do enjoy fish on occasions, but it is not a very common meat enjoyed within the Pakistani culture. And often these meats are enjoyed whether it is grilled, roasted, or simmered into a stew. As for regional specialties, so on the left over here, you can see this is baya, originated from Lahori cuisine. And baya, again, are trotters simmered in a spicy broth, which are garnished with cilantro, sometimes chilies on top with ginger as well. And then on the right, we have the Lahori tadka that I mentioned a few minutes ago, the whole roasted chicken, which is covered in masala. And then right here, you have Sindhi kadai, that was influenced by Sindhi culture, which is a mix of meat with vegetables in a curry. And then on the bottom, this is Balochi cuisine, and you can see that this is lamb being grilled on a flame. Pakistani culture does have a lot of influence and involvement of tradition. Many of the flavors, recipes, the way dishes are cooked have been passed down through many generations. One traditional method of cooking for Pakistani cuisine is using a tandoor, it is similar to a clay wood-fired oven. Many of the times in a tandoor, you would find naan being baked. As you can see in the pictures over here, this is what the tandoor looks like. And this is also another picture of what a tandoor looks like.
So, Japanese food focuses mainly on the seasonality of their dishes to keep it fresh. And the presentation of the food is a very big part of the culture as well. You have the color, texture, aesthetics, and arrangement of the food. And Japanese food is also a lot more subtle than many cultures. We do use spices, but not as prominent of spices as other cultures use. Umami, which is your fifth taste, is a big part of the taste of the food because it can be added by using ingredients like soy sauce or miso. And rice is a big staple in Japanese cuisine. We use jasmine rice, which is a short grain rice, and sushi rice for sushi and onigiri. Um, Sushi, it's just rice mixed with rice vinegar, and usually it's combined with raw fish and vegetables and then rolled up and cut into pieces. Onigiri is a kind of rice ball that's usually filled with savory ingredients, or it can just be a ball of rice on its own. And then you have your different kinds of noodles like ramen and udon and soba, and each of them is prepared differently so that you can keep a variety of different kinds of noodles throughout the cuisine, and they could be eaten cold or hot in different broths or sauces. And then seafood is another big part of the culture because Japan is an island, so it's surrounded by water on all sides, and that's their main source of protein. Although in ramen, you can use like pork belly or chicken instead of seafood.
So Pakistani and Japanese cuisine do have a few similarities. One of the main similarities is that they both prioritize the use of high quality ingredients. For example, in Japan, they strive to use high quality fish and seafood, whereas in Pakistan, they do try and use high quality seasonings, since that is what makes Pakistan is known for their flavorful food. Both traditions also prioritize the importance of balance, whether that is having a good balance between sweet and spicy or salty and sweet. Um, Also, they both do have a connection of hospitality in their food. For example, in both cultures, it is common when guests are over to offer them and to serve them, whether it is tea, juice, any sort of refreshments, along with some snacks like finger foods. Like in Pakistani cuisines, you would find samosas being served or any type of small finger food that we would offer to our guests. They do also have differences in both of their foods. Pakistani food does have a lot of bold and spicy flavors in their food. Coriander, turmeric, cumin, these are all very common seasonings that make Pakistani dishes their own dishes. Whereas Japanese food tends to focus on the simplicity and the balance of their food and actually tasting the fish itself rather than overpowering it with seasonings. Pakistani cuisine also does draw in influence from various regions that I did mention previously. For example, like Sindhi cuisine, Lahori cuisine, whereas Japanese has a deep respect for tradition and craftsmanship. Japanese cuisine does put a lot of care and pride into their food, the way they present their food as well.
So these are just some examples of Japanese food that you would find at many restaurants in Japan. You have your ramen, your sushi, your onigiri, and then tempura, which is usually shrimp or vegetables that are fried in a light, airy batter and usually used with a tempura sauce to dip it in. And then these are some typical Japanese desserts that you would find. The top one is taiyaki. It's a fish-shaped cake that's usually filled with red bean paste. That's a very common filling for different Japanese desserts. But you could also find taiyaki that comes with chocolate or custard or even sweet potato. And it's actually shaped like a fish because that's seen as a sign of good luck in Japan. And then your mochi is a sticky rice cake that's also usually filled with red bean paste, but it could also be filled with ice cream and it can come in different shapes and colors as well. And your Japanese cheesecake, it's a mix of a regular cheesecake and a chiffon cake. So it has a very light and airy texture, but it's a lot less sweet than your typical cheesecake.
And then once again, we do have a few popular Pakistani dishes. On the left over here is nahari, which is mainly beef. It could be lamb as well, but most of the time it is beef, which is simmered with a lot of different spices. Usually this is cooked submerged in water and spices like ginger, cilantro, onions, and it's cooked over a low to medium heat for a long period of time. And then on the right, we have biryani, which is a very, very popular Pakistani dish. Biryani involves rice, mainly chicken, also with potatoes, and sometimes lemons to add a very fresh taste to biryani. On the top left over here, we have chapli kebabs, which are flat minced chicken, beef, or lamb patties. These are marinated with a bunch of spices and cooked either on a grill or on a fry pan. On the bottom left, we have halim, which is lentils mixed with either ground beef or ground chicken and kind of creates like a stew. And then on the right, we have karai, which can be either made of chicken or goat, not as often beef, but you could do beef as well. Karai usually involves a lot of tomatoes, garlic, and then yogurt to make that sauce of the karai. And then in the top middle portion, we have gulab jamun, which are similar to donut holes. They are deep fried dough balls and they are soaked in a sweet, sugary syrup, most sometimes a rose syrup, which gives gulab jamun its name. And then we have barfi, which are sweet confectionery, kind of like triangle diamond shapes. They come in different shapes, made of condensed milk and sugar. These are very similar to fudge that you would find from the store. And then on the bottom, we have jalebi, which is my personal favorite. They are spiral shaped batter that is fried and then coated in syrup. These would taste most similarly to funnel cake that you would find at your local county fair. Pakistani clothing. So Pakistani clothing they are very known for their modesty for both men and for women. Um, on the top right, you could see a man wearing a traditional Pakistani outfit, which is called shalwar kameez. Shalwar kameez translates to quite literally pants and a shirt. So shawakamis are often characterized by their flowiness. They are usually made of a cotton or linen material. They consist of a long shirt with flowy pants. The sleeves are always long as well. And then on the man, we can see he does have a collar with buttons going down the middle. And then as for women, it is also very similar to the man's outfit. However, women tend to have more vibrant colors with more embroidery and a lot of florals on their outfits as well. We can also see right here that she is wearing a dupatta. And a dupatta is like a sash or a scarf, and it is used for modesty and for also adding elegance to the outfit itself. And then here are some examples of Pakistani clothing. So the woman on the very left is wearing shalwar kameez. This is something you would just wear to a typical family gathering. In the middle, you have, or in the middle woman, you have a garara. So the difference between this and a typical shalwar kameez outfit is that the pants on a garara are more flared and bell-bottomed. And then you can see a woman usually always has some sort of dupatta with her for her modesty. And then we can see the first guy on the left is wearing typical shalwar kameez. This is the long shirt with the long sleeves and the flowy pants that I mentioned. And then on the right, we have a guy wearing a kurta or a sherwani. So this would be typically worn by a groom or someone who is very close to the groom and would be worn on a very fancy wedding-like occasion.
So, Japanese clothing is known for its elegance and craftsmanship. Um, you have your kimono, which is one of the most well-known items of clothing in Japan. They are straight-lined robes that have big wide sleeves on them, and often they are tied with an obi, which is a belt, and the obi can also be tied in different knots, which signifies different meanings for why they're wearing the kimono, because kimonos are worn for more special occasions like weddings, tea ceremonies, and festivals. Whenever people get married over in Japan, the bride typically wears white kimonos with red patterns on them, because the red is a sign of good luck in Japan, and then the groom wears a black kimono. And then you have your yukata, which is very, very similar to a kimono, but it's more lightweight, made of cotton, and you don't wear an obi with it. They have less intricate designs, but they usually are more vibrant in color than your typical kimono. And they're often worn with wooden sandals or flat sandals. And then your hakama are wide leg pants that are worn over a kimono or your yukata. And they're usually worn by men, but women do wear them as well. And they are worn for more formal occasions like your weddings, tea ceremonies, martial arts events, and they also come in various designs and colors, and the designs typically show your social status or the occasion that you're wearing it for. So these are some examples of Japanese clothing. On your left, you have your kimono, and you can see in the middle of the white belt is a pink belt, which is your obi, and then you move to the yukata, and as you can see, this one does not have a belt in the middle of the yellow one. So that will signify that it is a yukata and not a kimono. And then your hakama, those are the wide leg pants, and you can see it being worn over a kimono on this guy. So the clothing in both cultures are very significant to its people, and they all have different meanings as to why they're being worn. But you could see that the clothing palette for Japanese clothing is more muted than the Pakistani clothing, and they focus more on simplicity of the clothing, whereas the Pakistani clothing, it focuses more on like the vibrant colors and elaborate designs and intricate embroidery. And then Japanese clothing is also more of a straight line silhouette, whereas the Pakistani clothing is more loose fitting and flowy on everybody. So although they have many differences, we can see that they do share some similarities with how they reflect the culture and the different meanings that they have for them, because again, a lot of their clothing is worn for more special occasions like weddings and celebrations and things like that. And then in each culture, you have your more casual daily clothing, and then obviously your more formal clothing. And then in both cultures, they include intricate patterns and designs and colors, with all of their clothing.
And then here we just have our sources that we found all of our information for. And that was our project.